Welcome back. YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Brett Franklin in studio. And Brett, let's switch over to the hardwood. Second half just about ready to get underway. First off, for the Celtics, what would you give them as a grade? Overall, you knew the expectations. You knew they'd be behind Cleveland, but they'd be fighting for that number 2 seed. Right now, they are in that 2 seed. What's your grade for the first half for this Celtics team?
I'd give them a B. I think, obviously winning whatever it was, 11 out of the last 12 headed into the All-Star break, a lackluster performance against Chicago in Chicago. But really what it comes down to is Thursday at 3 o'clock, the trade deadline in the NBA. And I think, Brad Stevens is a great coach. Isaiah Thomas playing out of his mind. I don't think if you had asked Danny Ainge when they made that trade for Isaiah Thomas that he was going to put up this big of numbers. No. Turned out to be a steal. Even the old Phoenix GM said, yeah, we got pretty much blinded on that one. We got taken to the woodshed on that one. But I'd give it a B. There have been games and teams that, the Celtics should have beaten, and good teams do beat, but second place Eastern Conference, that's pretty much the ceiling, I think, for this team. So I'd give them a B. Yeah,
it's funny. I actually said the same thing on the Saturday show when we talked about it at the halfway point, that it's a B. They could have done a little bit better. Like you said, some of the games that the really good teams go out and beat, but they also could have done worse. The fact that they held it together when Horford was hurt at the beginning of the season, gelling when he came back and Crowder was out, that they managed to where they are. So I'd say a B as well. But going forward with the trade deadline coming up, as you mentioned, do they need to go get someone? And if they do, is it Jimmy Butler? Is it Paul George? Is it just a guy who can be a rebounder? Maybe they don't need that superstar piece or don't want him this year.
Do they need a superstar piece? Yes, yes, yes. They absolutely do. Whether that's Jimmy Butler, Paul George. I mean, I was very disappointed with the DeMarcus Cousins trade, that the fact that apparently the Celtics didn't even bother trying to call the Kings and making a deal. I don't think Jimmy Butler gets moved, Jeremy. I mean, why would the Bulls move him? He's got a team-friendly contract.
Very good deal, yeah.
If Chicago moves him, then the fans aren't going to come out. They have nobody to build that team around. I don't care if you throw in Marcus Smart. He's not a guy that's going to be a franchise
player. He's not
going
to build it, yeah.
I don't think Chicago trades him. If the Celtics are going to make a big deal, it's going to be during the summer. Whether or not that that Brooklyn pick turns into the number 1, Jeremy, we're Celtics fans. We've watched this team for a while. It's not going to be the number 1 pick.
Never works out.
It never becomes the number 1 pick. And if it's not the number 1 pick, then that value just plummets, and that would put the Celtics in big trouble. I think if they're going to pull a big deal, they've got to do it now and before that lottery pick is revealed, whatever it might be, 1 or a 4 or whatever it turns out.
And here's what I think on the situation of trading now versus trading at the lottery. Even if that is a number 1 pick and you do trade it, you've already given up half a season. And I don't think that I think the Cavs are ripe for the taking right now. I mean, beating the Golden State Warriors is a completely another option that I don't think is on the table at this point. I don't think they're beating the Warriors, but I think the Cavs can be beaten, especially with Kevin Love's situation, but they need an impact player, a Butler, a George. I don't think as this team is constructed, they can beat the Cavs. Do you think as it's constructed, we'll say they don't make a trade, what is the ceiling besides, okay, yeah, they can beat the Cavs? What's a realistic ceiling?
So if they stay put right now,
exactly.
and they don't make a move, I don't even know if winning a first-round series is a guarantee, Jeremy. If the playoffs started right now, they would play the Bulls. We saw what happened last game before the All-Star break. They were a no-show. I think that is going to even be a tough series. So I think if the team stays pat right now, I don't like a matchup against the Bulls. I don't like a matchup against the Wizards. Those are two teams they've struggled against this year.
They've lost earlier in the season against the Bulls as well.
Right, you get Jimmy Butler, you're guaranteed to at least, I would think, get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But as the team stays pat, you'd expect Eastern Conference Finals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were bounced in the first round.
Yeah, see, I look at it a little bit differently. I think they can be in a 7-game series. They match up better with the Bulls, but a Wizards team and a Toronto team are two teams that they struggle with, and if they are in the 2 seed, then they get Toronto probably or Washington in the second round.
Not to get off track here, but I think the big thing is what is the fan base? What is their reaction if they don't make a deal on Thursday at 3 o'clock? If they just go out and get P.J. Tucker, who's a nice role player, but he's not going to be changing anything. And the fact if that Brooklyn pick doesn't turn into the number 1 pick, boy, it's going to be a long summer for the Celtics and Danny Ainge.
Yeah, but I wonder if the team buys into Danny Ainge and buys into Brad Stevens and that it's a process. Because we've seen this happen before where, they trust the process, not to steal one from the 76ers playbook, but it almost seems like, at draft night when the big 3 came together, they didn't look like it was anything going on. Then all of a sudden it just kind of happened. So You think maybe there's a little bit more animosity from the fans as opposed to just trusting the process?
Well, I think that's what has also happened because people have asked me, why are the Celtics fans, not clamoring? Why aren't they knocking down the door? Well, I think it helps that your football team's been really good.
That's true.
That the hockey team, the Bruins, have been were playing well for a while there, but there's nothing to deflect now. It's all about the Celtics here as we go into the springtime, and if they don't make a deal, an impact deal, the fan base is going to be really restless.
Well, it's going to be interesting. As you said, the Thursday 3 p.m. trade deadline is looming, so we'll see what the Celtics will do. We're going to take a break and come right back. We'll have the Valley Regional Healthcare Prescription Playbook. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.